In Kharkiv Oblast, Belarusian volunteers fighting for Ukraine are hammering Russian positions and dismantling their staging grounds. Ideologically opposed to Russia's invasion and morality, they are taking expert advantage of weak spots that appeared after Russian generals recently grossly miscalculated their resources. At Kupiansk, Ukrainians continue to hold the line, with commandos of the Ukrainian intelligence directorate forming a formidable part of the defense, and standing beside them, integrated into the unit, is the Belarusian Volunteer Corps, said Euromaidan Press media outlet. While there are many groups of Belarusian volunteers, this unit is integrated into and has received special forces level training from Ukraine. They do not operate alone, instead acting as support elements for deep special forces raids, sabotage and reconnaissance missions, as well as a number of teams conducting these operations themselves. For one of these missions, Belarusians in the mortar unit of the Volunteer Corps modified and specialized their rounds for a specific purpose. Combining a napalm-like substance with thermite flakes, these incendiary shells were meant to burn away forest cover, force Russians out of their dugouts into the open, and create a massive, long-lasting distraction. Euromaidan Press says the mission was to hold an active defense in front of Kindrashivka, as Russian infiltrators have regularly tried to establish a foothold here. The forest is linked to the settlement by a narrow series of tree lines through which Russian infantry move under the cover of darkness after gathering first in the forest. However, the fires raining down on them distracted the Russians and flushed them out of their hideouts. Reportedly, they were then engaged from behind by a special forces raiding party that cleared the forest of Russian soldiers. The Belarusian operation here was a direct result of problems caused by Russian commanders themselves. Euromaidan Press says, recently, amidst stalling progress at Kupiansk and eager to report success, another classical flag-planting operation was launched. However, this one made the mistake of reporting successes far beyond what was believable. The Belarusian operation of destroying a Russian staging ground was only part of the Ukrainian response, as combined Ukrainian forces across the entire Russian bridgehead took advantage of the Russian miscalculation. Notably, Russian commanders tried to salvage the situation with yet another flag-planting operation, this time sticking the Russian flag to the Kupiansk television mast with drones and a magnet, enraging Russian military observers who, in response, called for the complete purging of the command and leadership of the Russian 6th Army. As the Belarusian force, trained in the ways of Ukrainian special forces, numbers approximately 300 soldiers in the Kupiansk direction alone. These motivated fighters are demonstrating their commitment to the cause and indomitable will to fight against what they consider to be the Russian menace.
President Donald Trump met Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Thursday, the final day of the U.S. leader's state visit to Britain, with tech investment, steel tariffs and potentially tricky talks over Ukraine and Gaza on the agenda. According to Associated Press, the President and First Lady Melania Trump were feted by King Charles III and Queen Camilla on Wednesday at Windsor Castle with all the pageantry the monarchy can muster: gold-trimmed carriages, scarlet-clad soldiers, artillery salutes and a glittering banquet in a grand ceremonial hall. British officials have festooned the trip with the kind of superlatives Trump revels in. It's an unprecedented second state visit for the U.S. leader, featuring the biggest military honor guard ever assembled for such an occasion. On Thursday it was Starmer's turn to welcome the president to Chequers, a 16th-century manor house northwest of London that serves as a rural retreat for British leaders. He was welcomed on the doorstep of the house by the Prime Minister and his wife, Victoria Starmer. Trump's British hosts want to celebrate the strength of the U.S.U.K. relationship, almost 250 years after its rocky start in 1776. Trump will be welcomed by ceremonial honor guard complete with bagpipers, a nod to the president's Scottish heritage, and shown items from the archive of wartime leader Winston Churchill, who coined the term special relationship for the bond between the United States and Britain. There's also a lunch of Dover sole followed by key lime pie, and a display by the Red Devils Army parachute team. To coincide with the visit, Britain said US companies had pledged £150 billion in investment in the United Kingdom, including £90 billion from investment firm Blackstone in the next decade. Investment will also flow the other way, including almost $30 billion by pharmaceutical firm GSK in the US. The two leaders will sign a tech prosperity deal that UK officials say will bring thousands of jobs and billions in investment in artificial intelligence, quantum computing and nuclear energy. It includes a UK arm of Stargate, a Trump-backed AI infrastructure project led by OpenAI, and a host of AI data centers around the UK. American firms are announcing £31 billion investment in the UK's AI sector, including $30 billion from Microsoft for Protects, including Britain's largest supercomputer. Starmer wants a successful state visit to balance weeks of bad news that saw him lose not just an ambassador but Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, who quit over a tax error on a home purchase, and a senior aide. He will be bracing for awkward questions about Jeffrey Epstein when he and Trump hold a news conference at Chequers. Days before the state visit, Starmer fired Britain's ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, over the envoy's past friendship with the convicted sex offender. There are also potentially difficult conversations to be had over Ukraine and the Middle East. Starmer has played a major part in European efforts to shore up US support for Ukraine. Trump has expressed frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin but has not made good on threats to impose new sanctions on Russia for shunning peace negotiations. As he left Washington for the UK on Tuesday, Trump appeared to put the onus on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski, saying, he's going to have to make a deal. Starmer also departs from Trump on Israel's war in Gaza, and has said the UK will formally recognize a Palestinian state at the United Nations later this month. Trump has threatened to penalize Canada during trade negotiations for making a similar move.